Hey everyone, this is Evan from Delta Triggers. In today's video, I want to talk about the different connectors that you get for Glock pistols. So to start off with, I want to talk about the connector options that you get for a double stack Glock, which is most of the Glock models. So your standard connector, unrefined, is going to look like this. It's got that coating on. These edges and stuff like that are very unrefined. But there it is. There's a standard connector. We offer very refined connectors. I only really use OEM connectors. There's one exception that I make on the slim line, which I'll talk about. But this is let's look at this one. This is a refined standard connector. So a standard connector is what comes in a Gen 3, Gen 4. Okay? And the difference is this angle right here. Okay, so this is like at a 90-degree angle. This is a standard connector. And then if you want to identify it, at the back of it, there's no marking. It's completely blank. Then you get a dot connector. You can tell by the little dot it has at the back. That's why it's called the dot connector. The dot connector comes in the Gen 5s. Right? It has a bit of an angle to it. Okay. And then the third one in the OEM range is a minus connector. You can see by the little minus sign on it. And that's got a even sharper angle to it. So between the three of these, generally speaking, okay, and this will differ depending on your setup and your gun. Standard connector, 5.5 to 6 pounds. Dot connector, 5 to 5.5 pound pull. Minus connector, 4.5 to 5, depending. Okay. They call it a 3.5 pound minus connector, but I mean, that really isn't the case. I mean, in my jobs, I get it to that, but there's a lot of other things that I do to get it to that point. But in reality, it's more 4.5. So this kind of drops by like half a pound as you go. Okay. In kilograms, this is a 2 kilogram connector as a minus connector. Then you get 2.25 kgs, which is the dot connector. And then 2.5 kg connector, which is the standard connector. Okay, so that's it in kilograms. So when I do my builds, I only use these OEM connectors, and then I refine them and polish them and make them absolutely amazing. Okay. Now let's look at the aftermarket options for your standard Glock models. Okay, so I've got a couple here. So what we normally get in South Africa, okay, is an Apex. Okay, this is an Apex connector. This is not polished. This is not really refined the way it comes. I've also noticed there's a lot of this is not very straight, and I've really had a lot of trouble with Apex connectors. I haven't been able to get them to work properly. The gun just doesn't reset most of the time. And that's without me interfering too much with anything. But, I've had a lot of trouble with Apex connectors. And they're rated to be, like a 4.5 pound pull, because of the angle that it comes in at. I'm not a really big fan of the Apex connector. I don't use it at all. The next one that I have is a double diamond connector. So this generally this does come from, the Glock store in the USA. I managed to pick one of these up a couple of years ago, and I haven't seen one since. It's pretty nice. It's got this special coating on it, makes it super smooth. The break is quite nice. But I haven't seen them since. I don't think anyone's importing them at the moment, and they're expensive. What you will find more commonly in South Africa is a ghost connector. We've got agents that import these. This is like, it's got an okay polished job to it. It is a minus connector. You can see the little minus sign. But I use these in very special cases. Actually, the only time that I actually use this is in my specialized Timney Alpha builds. It's just because I get like a slightly better result than the OEM Glock connector on this one. It's just because the angle is slightly different. But other than that, I don't use this. I'd rather just go with a OEM connector, all the time. And then this is a slight variation of that. It's also a ghost connector, but it's got these little channels for cleaning debris, and they charge you more money for that. Okay, so that's kind of like what we're able to get our hands on here. Ultimately, if I'm doing a comp build, I'll use a OEM minus connector that's like super refined. I get a much better result from that, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper as well. When I'm doing defensive builds, it is always between a dot connector and a standard connector, depending on what the customer wants. It depends on, the break weight that he's after or she's after. There's a whole lot of factors. Okay, so let's talk about the slimline model. So this is a normal connector that you get for the slimline models. This little thing's tiny. Okay, this is a standard one. This is unrefined. Obviously, I would refine this, polish it, and do all my magic to it, make it incredible. But because of this angle, it's pretty heavy, and this is like really around 6 pounds most of the time. And I like using that for the defensive builds, because usually like a Glock 43, Glock 43X and stuff like that, you're using it for self-defense. You're not using it for comp or anything like that. But I have had guys come in and say, hey, listen, I want a better, lighter trigger pull, even though I use it for defensive purposes, etc. So I do supply a TR1 minus connector for the slimline models. It is actually really, really nice. It comes polished. When I get my hands on it, I will polish it again. I will do all my refinement on it to make it absolutely exceptional. But this is really nice. This breaks between 4 and 4.5 pounds, which is still okay, in terms of poundage. It's not like it drops it to 3 or anything like that. But it is really, really nice. So this one I supply for the slimline models. Okay, so that is a little bit about connectors and what we're able to get our hands on here, and what to use in certain circumstances. Check out our website. Everything's on there. Got any questions, get the details of the website. Hit me up. I'll answer any questions you have. Thanks, guys.